folks. This is David, and it's the Prideability show. And I'm not even sure how many episodes that I've done because we've been in COVID time, and so everything is mutual at home now, and um, it's just tough times. But you know what? It's the only way to reach out to folks and you know, uh, doing the show, and I haven't done a show in a while, and I'm so sorry that I haven't been. But we're going to start getting back into doing shows, and like I said, I don't even know what episode we're on, but big deal, right? Well, it's no big deal. We're here to support one another and have a great show and get to know people in the community that are doing great things for people with disabilities. And that's all that matters, right? So today we've got a great show, uh, and we've got a great guest, and her name is Cara uh, Sachs. I'm really not pronouncing her right last name, but anyhow, she's doing some great things in the disability field. Carla is disabled. She's certified life coach who works with people with chronic illness and disabilities in her businesses. So let's welcome her with a great applause.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I am good. And just so you know, it's Cara Sachs is how it's said.
Sachs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And no L in the first name.
I apologize for your pronouncing
Not a
your
problem.
last name because I'm not very good with last names.
Well, we're all not good at stuff, so not a problem.
So tell the viewers what you do in the community, and what you do, to support people with disabilities.
Well, yeah. So I'm a certified life coach. I own my own business. Cara Sachs Coaching is the name of it. And I am disabled. I have several major chronic illnesses, and which leads to some mobility impairments and other things. And I think people a lot of times think of disability as sad and tragic and, oh my goodness, isn't it so, it's too bad that, or whatever. And I don't feel that way. I feel like most of the time the barriers that we face are something that's created. It's not necessarily us. It's that how things are set up is what really makes it hard. And so I help people to kind of shift how they think about things like that, and to start to find the value in their experience as a person with chronic illness or disability and to gain acceptance and pride.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love how you say it's sensitive and pride, and that's the whole meaning of us having a disability, and just it works around with so many things, and being GLBTQIA, it's just part of the pride thing, and I thank you so much for doing the work that you do, and it means a lot to people.
It's a sort of thing that, like, it's when it's your passion, it's like you can't really give up on it very well, because it keeps coming back and pokes you in the shoulder and says, hey, keep going.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
My sister, I have a little story about my sister had a little girl that died when she was 9 years old, and she she had disability, and or she had a bunch of disabilities, and when she was blind, being born, and a bunch of just a bunch of she wasn't developed, and she lived to be 9 years old, and her family faced that, and she had died, and then my sister from that took that and got a really, really great job for working for Volk Rehab, and went to school, and I think something resembles when something in your life happens like that, and then you say, I want to build up on that,
Mhm.
and to support people with disabilities, or it could be another thing, and I think sometimes that's what happens in our life.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely believe that. I think a lot of people will try to, think that like, oh well, there's a, and it's really hard for a lot of people when they are told this, that like there's a reason this happened to you. I don't necessarily believe that. There may be, who knows. But the most important thing is that you can find value in those difficult, painful experiences. You can create value out of it and take it and, you know, use it to help your work and to help other people. And that's what I strive to do. And that there can be value in all experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I so much believe in that. And like I started this support group, and I had a passion for it, and
Mhm.
I still do today, and I may not be doing the as much work as I really want to do in the GLBTQIA for people with disabilities, but I do other work for people that are disabled,
Mhm.
and I support them in a lot of ways. And um, my work, I work with the DD Council in Vermont, and uh, Greenmount Self Advocates. You must have heard of them, and uh, I've done so much work in this field, and
Mhm.
so and I'm not going to shy away of it, because
Mhm.
it's a passion of mine, and I
Right.
love all people with disabilities. So
Yeah. And I love I love, first of all, the name of your show, and just the idea that that kind of intersection between disability and LGBTQIA, that uh, I've said this for quite a long time, is that when people think about, the LGBTQIA community, it's like, oh, fun, rainbows and, parades and, drag queens and, oh, yeah, fun. And then they think of disability and they get very serious. And it's like, the disability community, we need like an image makeover, that we're fun too, and we can be wild, and we can be, totally out of character and unexpected. And for me, you know, I'm a lesbian, and you go through your coming out process and everything, and but there was also a coming out process as disabled also,
hmm
of that, especially living with chronic illnesses my entire life, but not having it recognized really. It was kind of a point at which I said, okay, I'm really hurting myself if I don't own this, if I don't recognize this, and be open about it and empowered about it, and be like, okay, I still, I am still valuable. I still have a lot to offer, and I have a right to be included. And when you start to own that and come out as disabled, everything starts to shift, because your own energy around it, people can sense that, even if they can't put words to it, they sense it, and how they respond changes too. So I
yeah,
love that
and I think you're so right about that. Where when I first started to do this work, that I really felt the GLBTQ world really didn't think too much about people that have disabilities,
Yeah.
um, and I still think today that they don't think about people with disabilities that are GLBTQIA, and I wish that was a little bit more stronger,
Yeah.
and people were more welcoming for people with disabilities, because I we are gay,
Hmm.
and we who we are who we are, and um
Yeah.
uh so I guess the next thing I want to talk to you about, Clara, is working with people with chronic illness, and the disabilities in their in their business. So what do you do with that?
So, the really cool thing about coaching, well, there's a lot of really cool things about coaching, but it's it's done a lot of times. Most coaches I know, and me included, do it over the phone. So what that means is that I've coached people in other countries. I coach people across the country. There's almost no limitations, which is really, really awesome. And what coaching is it's about helping the person to, well, it's a lot of things, but helping them to um, examine where they are, how they're doing things and thinking about things, and in a really non-judgmental way. That there's nothing that's good or bad, but like looking at how well is that working for you? Is it working for you? If it's not, okay, then how do you want to change that? And to help the person that to know that they have all their own answers. They just can't get to it. So my job is to ask them questions and help them get through blocks to figure out what those answers are, and then to put those into action. In a really deep way, not just like I'm going to change my behavior and hope for the best. Because if you just change the behavior, it's it doesn't last very well. You have to change your own, your thought patterns and your beliefs and your feelings. Then it becomes sustainable. That the actions kind of flow from that, and the results flow from that, and then it just kind of snowballs and becomes natural. Um, so, I mean, one of my areas of interest is that I have a lot of areas of interest, too many probably, but I have personal experience living on disability. In fact, I'm working towards getting off of disability, which is a really tricky thing. And so I also do advocacy because I believe it's a whole system that needs to change to make
Mhm.
it work better for people who maybe want to improve their lives, who want to, be able to earn some money and not fear, getting a raise, or fear earning a little bit that they're going to lose everything. And that if people want to get off disability, that there's a simpler path that doesn't penalize them, that doesn't punish them for trying to do that. Um, so yeah, so I have a lot of interest, and yeah, I mean, I could go in any direction here, David. So you tell me where you want to,
Well,
where you want to go.
I'm on disability, and
Mhm.
it I have to say, for me, because I'm getting older,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
it works for some, and it doesn't work for some.
Mhm.
And it works for me because it gives me the things that, it gives me time to do the things that I really have a passion for,
Mhm.
like this kind of work, and um selling antiques is one of my hobbies, and
Oh, nice.
one thing that I really love to do. And um I work at a nursing home, and
Mhm.
it's not a job that I I want to do for the rest of my life, but
Mhm.
it's something there that brings income in.
Mhm.
And so I get what you say about being on disability, and
Mhm.
um uh people want to further their work ethic, and
Mhm.
um so it works both ways, I think.
Well, I I think, disability benefits are essential. They're really really essential, and they're very hard to get onto. They're very hard to prove, that you need them, etc. But it's also a challenge in how it's set up if you're trying to earn more money, that there's real limitations. And there are work incentive programs that will allow you to earn more, but it's really really tricky, and it's complicated as all get
Mhm,
out. So
mhm.
I one of my goals is to help like change that system so that people don't feel afraid to work, and that they, you know don't try to avoid like the income cap because they know that they'll lose everything.
Yeah,
So that to make it more flexible so that people can, improve things as much as they're able to and want to, without fearing, penalty, and without fearing losing essential health care, and, all of those things. It needs to work for us. And the thing is that when it works for us, it will work for everyone else too, because it will become a win-win. When we're able to work more and improve our standard of living, our health gets better, our mental health gets better.
mhm,
The costs for our health care you know will not be as great, because anytime you're struggling and you feel trapped and hopeless, you know the rest of your health doesn't do as well. So
right.
it's really a win-win. It's just figuring out how to make that happen and how to get folks to buy in with it, you know.
So when
So,
you talk about chronic illness, and I mean, there's so much stuff out there that's going on with chronic illness, and now you have to face the pandemic situation. And so how are people coping with the pandemic going on? And
it's it's hard. I mean, it's hard for everybody. Um, I happen to be a person who is considered to be at very high risk for catastrophic complications if I got COVID, because since April I've been diagnosed with 3 lung diseases, which in the middle of
oh,
yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like, plus with things I had before, it's like, how do I go about doing this? And, you know, just things like getting groceries is a huge challenge now.
yeah,
And, especially if you're on benefits, how do you order groceries and be able to afford them? Because services tend to be very expensive. And can you get the things that you need? Is the store reasonably accessible for you if you're able to go to the store? Are there barriers around that are now maybe worse because of COVID? So it's a challenge, and the isolation is what I'm experiencing personally, and I know a lot of people are. The isolation is really really hard, and
mhm,
um, and I know that there's a lot of controversy about this, but the you know, and I totally support, all of the, safety measures, including masks and everything. And at the same time, masks can make your life much more difficult if you have a disability. For me, um, a mask, which I wear, I've worn masks for like a year and a half, okay, for other reasons. But a mask makes it more difficult for me to breathe because my airways collapse. So my oxygen levels drop. I have a harder time, breathing and everything.
mhm,
I still wear one religiously, but it causes migraines and everything. So there's all kinds of these unforeseen, unexpected challenges that have come up because of it. And I think for everybody, the isolation is a big one. And when you have, major health issues, uh, it it's kind of like, I said this to somebody the other day. It's like, okay, I might feel safe around you, but it's kind of like sex in a way that, like, every person you have contact with, it's like when you have sex with one person, you're having sex with every person that they had sex with. It's the same thing right now with COVID. Is every person you come in contact with, you're also coming in contact with every person they've come in contact with. So
Yeah.
how much risk can you take? So it's really tricky, and scary for sure.
So, what are the barriers you experience in participating in the LGBTQIA events and activities?
Oh, that's a good one. I think, well, there's physical barriers at times, when things are held in, locations that are not accessible. I'm a what's called an ambulatory wheelchair user, or a part-time wheelchair user. So if something's not wheelchair accessible, if I'm needing to use my wheelchair, I can't participate, and that's rather more than frustrating. It's sometimes infuriating, and so
Hmm.
I try to take that frustration and anger and use it to improve things for the future. I think there's also a lot of attitudinal barriers, that people think, oh, disabled people, like disabled people and sex just are like, they don't connect, right? In a lot of people's minds. And it's like, no, they're, you know, disabled people can be very sexy, very passionate, very active, you know, all of those things. And it's kind of, we got to start to knock down more of those barriers that, you know, there's nothing wrong with disability. And I think where that comes from is people don't want to think about it because it scares them. If you're disabled, ooh, maybe that means that I could somehow become disabled too, and they don't even want to go there. Like, they don't even want to think about it, you know, because it's scary to them. Um, yeah.
Huh. Well, and I think about barriers, and I hear it all the time with people with disabilities, and like how they're struggling, and I I think about this COVID time, and where a lot of people with disabled people, um, they like to be around a lot of other people because they just need that. They need that, like, touching, and they like to talk, and being in this COVID time,
Yeah.
it's really, really a hard time for them now. And it,
Yeah.
it can be very depressing. It can be
Yeah.
very, uh,
Yeah.
it's just, it's a hard time. And these Zoom calls,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's just not the same thing as being together. And oh
Yeah,
no, and I see it all the time. And
that's true, but can you imagine if we didn't even have that? Like,
oh my God, I don't know where we'd be.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, like anybody, I have days where I'm just like, okay, get me at, like, I can't even, like, function like anybody. But, I do try to focus on the positive as much as I can. And I can't even imagine where we'd be if we didn't have this technology right now. Um, because I would never see another human being probably, for like a year. So I'm grateful for it. Yeah.
So, Clara, can I ask you, how do
Mhm.
people get hold of you if they want to reach out to you? Is there a website or?
Yeah, my website is right there on the screen, www.carasachs.com. I have a blog. You can also get on my mailing list if you'd like to, get information and, learn about some of the stuff I'm doing. If you're interested in potentially, um, uh, working with a coach one-on-one or maybe as part of a group. Because one thing that I've wanted since the beginning, and I'm working on figuring this out, is finding ways for people who are lower income, because a lot of folks with disabilities are, um, to be able to afford to work with a coach in one way or another. And so that's something that's really important to me. And so I'm working on figuring that out. So if you go to my website, you can fill out a contact form, send me a message, and we can connect that way. Yeah. I also do
And
public
don't
speaking
forget,
and stuff.
people,
Yeah.
that people are still coming together on Zoom every Wednesday, I think, from the disability group now at Monday and Thursdays at 5:30 to 1:30. Uh, I hope that's right. The disability program at Vermont Pride meets, and I think they're going to start doing Zoom calls, if I'm not mistaken, right? And uh, so I guess that's it about on the show here, and it was great to have you and learn about you and like what you're doing in the community, and uh, thank you very much for the work that you do.
Thank you. I really enjoyed meeting you and talking with you and being on here. Thank you very much. I enjoyed
Have a
this.
good day.
You too. Thanks, David.